In the last lesson, we learned that there are three basic tonal functions: the tonic function, the predominant function, and the dominant function. We saw how each of the primary chords fits into one of these categories. 1 had a tonic function, 4 had a predominant function, and 5 had a dominant function. But what about all the other chords that can be built from the pitches of the scale? What function or purpose do they serve? To answer this question, let's take a look at the minor chords that can be formed from the pitches of the major scale. The minor chords of the scale are the 6, 2, and 3 chords. These 3 chords are called secondary chords. Each of the primary chords in the diagram is followed by a secondary chord. You will notice that each pair has 2 notes in common. Because of this fact, the secondary chords are easily interchangeable with their primary counterparts. When one of the secondary chords is substituted for a primary chord, it can take on that primary chord's function. Take, for example, the 1 chord, which has a tonic function. When it is replaced by a 6 chord, the 6 chord takes on a tonic function, since it is acting in place of the tonic. Here's a diagram showing each function, its possible substitution, and their abbreviations. The only chord that we have not dealt with yet is the 7 chord. The 7 chord is the only chord from the major scale that is diminished. Most music theorists categorize the 7 chord as an extension of the 5 chord. Because they share 2 notes in common, the 7 chord can substitute for the 5 chord and take on its dominant function. We now have 2 chords that can act as dominant substitutes: the 3 chord and the 7 chord. This brings us to a problem with the school of thought that says that only the secondary chords can be substitutes for the primary chords. In reality, each chord of the scale actually has 2 chords that share 2 notes in common with it: the chord a third above and the chord a third below. Take, for example, the 3 chord in the following diagram. As you can see, the 3 chord shares 2 notes with the 5 chord, but it also shares 2 notes with the 1 chord. This is why some music theorists in the past have argued that the 3 chord actually has a tonic function rather than a dominant function. In the next lecture, we will learn how to build chord progressions using diatonic chord substitutes.